Welcome to Con.
One.
It's not just a show, it's a journey we share. We're all trekking, full of a cheer. It's not just a show, it's a journey we share. We're all trekking, full of a cheer. All trekking, full of a cheer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Boldly Trekking. 'Tis I, Ash. And as always, the captain du jour, Sean.
Hello. Nanu. Good evening.
All right. I am going to the playlist to see if we are live streaming. If not, you know what? So be it. And of course, it's not live streaming. I do not know why that happens, that it doesn't automatically. I mean, I've set it up so many times.
It's no cookie for you, computer. Oh, wait.
No.
Give me the cookie.
It should be cookies. It should be cookies du jour. Cookies for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess not. Content. Episode 17 never uploaded? Oh well. It's not like we don't have it stored up. Well, we can go ahead and load that. All right, let me come back to where we were. Hi, everybody. Lots of stuff has happened since last we spoke. The news waves have been rife with articles about things going on. Everything from fun Legoland to complete reboots of the entire Star Trek universe. You heard that one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Apparently, Skydance Paramount has decided that the Star Trek 4 movie that was in, I guess, the works, kind of, not actually in production yet, but was in being talks of doing, has been officially staked through the heart and killed permanently. So the Abrams verse is effectively capped.
I really did not expect anything more out of the Abrams verse after the actor who played Chekhov passed away. I didn't really see that happening. And plus, now it's been too long for them to kick that right off. Now, if they, I think they're missing out because enough time has passed.
Mm-hmm.
They could have theoretically gone with the Abrams verse, the Kelvin verse refit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that would have been.
That's kind of what they were doing anyway, because the ship at the end of the movie on the third one was a brand new Enterprise. And they could have actually just went, hey, the movie adventures that they had in their original cast and crew, we'll make our own version of it. But, oh, wait, we already did comp. So.
Well, no, I mean, I think it was too soon for them to do the refit in the Kelvin verse.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but now would have been the perfect timing because it's almost exactly the same. It's almost the 10-year kind of spacing that was occurred on in the original TOS to the refit.
Uh-huh.
And that's a shame. It would have been interesting to see the Kelvin verse refit.
Yeah, it also would have been nice to see if they'd actually, it's one of the things we talked about before is like, if we could grow it up a little bit more and make a little bit more sense sometimes, some of the stuff, but, not really necessarily saying that Abrams' verse was bereft of everything, but, just sometimes like having the giant hole in the middle of the saucer so you could have people fall through it was kind of...
That was a design choice, definitely. That was definitely a design choice. I'll give you that one. But that was not as abhorrent as the Discovery that did the whole flippy and spinny. And at no point was everybody hanging out on a wall like some kind of freaking amusement park ride.
Oh, that would have been more enjoyable than what we got.
I think they let a nice thing go away when they didn't try that out. That could have been an interesting.
Have Stamets up against the wall.
Well, apparently that doesn't occur in all the freaking huge open areas inside the Discovery when they're going on the turbo lift. I mean,
I really don't think it was a starship. I think it was a TARDIS.
It had to be in a TARDIS because literally there was more negative space in that ship than there was used space.
Yeah, it's bigger on the inside than on the outside. I think it left a Starfleet banner on it. It was like, it's a Starfleet vessel. Never mind the Time Lord technology all around. Just ignore that.
That's kind of like the movie Section 31. If they had not on several occasions said the word Starfleet, that was the only real connection between that movie and Star Trek, was they said Starfleet a couple times.
The one thing they did on the sly was the connection to yesterday's Enterprise, because the young Starfleet officer who was the woman was
Yeah.
Rachel Garrett, who was the captain of the Enterprise C.
Hold on. Okay, maybe I gave up on Discovery too soon. How does because this takes place in Section 31 takes place in what time?
About 2320.
How did the Emperor get back?
It's not the Emperor. Rachel Garrett is the captain
No.
of the Enterprise C.
No, I'm
you're not-
talking.
okay, I'm getting where you're coming from. You remember the Emperor was at the Guardian
Yeah.
of Forever?
Yeah.
She jumps through. She ends up in TOS period of timeline in our timeline, and then she just has been going through sequentially living life in the normal continuum.
Hold on now. Hold on. So she got booted back to TOS.
Yeah.
All right. Did they show in other episodes that I haven't seen yet her going through, or are we just saying that happened?
That's what they said in the show. That's literally what the Guardian of Forever was saying. She was going to be sent back in time to a time period where the two universes were closer together, which is the whole crossover with Mirror Mirror. Essentially, she'll be able to exist then and be able to continue to live her life and make a difference and contribute to
But okay, I get that. All right. But then how far forward was Section 31? Because if it was TOS that she was sent to, and then the young Starfleet officer is the captain of yesterday's Enterprise C, she would not have been a young ensign level lieutenant back in TOS. She would have been not even born.
Emperor Georgiou ended up at TOS and has been living her life sequentially throughout the period from TOS.
Yeah, but she would have been dead by then.
No, she's not. I mean, for whatever reason.
Obviously, she's not, and obviously she didn't age at all. I mean, I would want her skincare routine because it's amazing. But no, okay. Once again, whoever wrote it did not pay attention to what was happening in the series, and so and for that reason alone, I'm so ready for the current, the current people in charge of making everything in Star Trek. I'm ready for them to just go away, because they truly do not give a single flying F about anything that has occurred before. They're just going through, picking out what they like, and just throwing it against the wall. And that's how you kill. That's how you kill enthusiasm for anything.
Yeah, the thing that was interesting about the Skydance Paramount announcement, from what I understand, was that what is canon to them, this is what they're going with, is that it starts with Enterprise. So everything from Enterprise up to, I believe, Generations. So
hold on. So NX-01 Enterprise?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what they're picking through is from Archer all the way up to Picard. Okay. So if they're picking through Archer all the way up to Picard, which is fine. All right. But one of the things that I thought that I read, and I could be totally wrong here, one of the things that I thought that I read is that they are not necessarily, I mean, they're starting, with new fresh characters that from the article I read are possibly not going to have anything whatsoever to do with the current well-used cast of characters. Hopefully nobody is going to be related to Spock, is all I'm saying. Hopefully no Spock relations. All right, no brothers, no sisters. What?
What about a Sailor? The cat bear thing, Sailor. I
don't know what that is.
His Vulcan teddy bear.
No.
Have like a whole bunch of like little adders. Oh, this is Spock's brother's Sailor.
Right? I don't care. I don't even want the same breed of tribbles. I want these tribbles to have teeth. All right, that's all I'm saying.
So you want carnivorous tribbles. So you're saying you want critters or krites from critters in Star Trek, right?
I would more be a fan if tribbles are now related to Fizgig from the Dark Crystal,
Fair
and
enough.
we somehow. I would be happier if we brought in Gelflings. That's all I'm saying, and Podlings.
So what I took from the announcement was they were just basically going, well, and this is a strongly emphasized thing. It was that they were doing completely away with the destruction of Romulus with the supernova. So that's gone. So the question is whether First Contact will still be considered canon, whether Insurrection will still be considered canon, because those are sort of lead-ons to the whole thing with, you know, Nemesis and the Romulan Insurrection. I won't tell you the name I normally like to call it. It's the one where fairy dust Picard falls in love with a woman from a planet. They live forever, basically.
No. That wasn't Insurrection. Was that Insurrection?
That was Insurrection because it's First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis. Those are the three.
Okay, Nemesis is the one I was confusing Insurrection with. Yeah. All right, so First Contact. All right, First Contact, I would say no. I mean, First Contact still happens, but you know, let's not have, you know, the cast of Next Gen, you know, dragging their dick through it, and just have it occurred the way it occurred. Let's keep that canon. Well, and I will send a strongly worded letter to them that they must do everything we say right now. And then,
don't make me.
After First Contact, you have then everything else. Insurrection. I mean, I don't see Insurrection or Nemesis, either of those, being beholden to First Contact. I mean, First Contact, I can see you might say, "Oh, that still happened," but no, don't worry about that. But everything else from NX-01 all the way up to Next Gen. So they're not gonna put their little tootsies into Next Gen, is what you're saying.
They're not going to be revisiting Next Gen, but basically what they're saying is everything from Archer all the way up to Generations effectively is considered canon. But everything else after that, from what I understand, is not. So I don't think they're going to wipe out First Contact.
Okay, so what you mean.
That's my personal feeling, because there's no real reason to. The thing they're really upset about, or seem to be like nixing, is the whole Hobart supernova destroying Romulus and all the events that happened after that. So the Picard TV series, for instance, will not occur. Discovery, the Starfleet Academy.
Starfleet. Well, and that's a question: is this going to lead to an early termination of Starfleet Academy?
That's what it's looking like, because what they're saying is almost everything will be capped off by 2027. So if that's the case, then what you have is Starfleet Academy running for maybe 2 years, which it starts in 2026, goes to 2027, and then
and some people say that's 2 years too long, but we won't get into that. So that's interesting. Now, okay, so now, and here's one of my big, you know, once again, the very thing that we started this on, that this was all predicated on, was, you know, the fact that one of the things is that they're not giving Starfleet credit for the size it should be, for the amount of area that it has to cover. So in my opinion is, they don't necessarily need to negate all these other shows. They don't need to negate the canon and stuff like that. They can still say, yes, that is occurring over there, but there is more than enough space out there for other stories to be told. I mean, at no point have they even had any kind of fun with the Kazin.
I know. I mean, most of the stories, like we talked about before, occur in a 400 light year diameter circle. So, like, Romulus is like on one side, Klingons are kind of over here, and the Cardassians are over here, and it's all within this like little circle within 400 light years. The galaxy's huge; it's 100,000 light years across at the mere minimum. And the Federation's explored 25% of that. So we're talking like minimum 25,000 light years, roughly, you know, if you're fudging it around. And, you know, we got 400 light years to play with. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah. Now this is, we're not dealing with very much at all here.
Uh-huh,
We haven't even gotten out of our spiral arm. All
uh-huh,
right. And yeah, there's so much more. I mean, and it's not just a two-dimensional. There's up and high and low. This is a three-dimensional space that we're dealing with. There's
uh-huh.
so much space to tell other stories. All
Oh yeah.
right. And there's so many other races. I mean, they don't need to be. I mean, keep in mind the Andorians. What's his name playing the Andorian in the Enterprise series?
Uh-huh.
You can't really top him. He did great. He was a great Andorian.
Actually, I wish they'd bring him back as like Archer's right hand man, essentially to be like if Archer is the president of the Federation, have him be either the vice president or the chief of staff or something like that, and have
No,
sort of
not
a
even. Not even. He's the head of intelligence. Oh yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
he's not going to want a desk job unless he's, somewhere where somebody can slip in a stiletto. Yeah.
Get his head dirty.
Yeah. No, he's definitely going to be Archer's version of the CIA.
Oh, yeah. Head of the first head of Section 31.
I was just going to say that, but I really want them to get away from Section 31.
Well, you could always have this start that's like another division and their cross purposes of Section 31.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've got more stories to tell, and they can do it without negating the stories that have already been told.
Yeah.
Because let's face the truth, all the things that occurred in a very small area, and even in the borders of the Federation, what they were doing was just over on a little bitty area. I mean, it was a hot area, but it was just a little bitty area, and there were other areas with other stuff going on. Yeah.
The other problem is they like to focus on stories, and this was a criticism of Next Generation, is that they kind of folded on the idea that the crew were going to be going out and exploring strange new worlds and going places where you know Star Trek had never gone before, and then they ended up basically doing all of the same stories in the same milieu or in the same areas and locations. And I actually like to have just not to poo poo Discovery, because we could do that all day long if you wanted to. But the problem I really have is you got this quarter of the galaxy you've explored, and then in 1982 when Star Trek Wrath of Khan came out, and even Star Trek 3, some of the authors were like, hey, this time we need to really have some like ships going out of the galaxy and exploring outside of the galaxy. You could have a ship 78 years in the future, leaving the galaxy going someplace else, and have a crew that's completely cut off from the Federation, meeting completely species devoid of any contact from the Federation. I mean, they don't have any connection to the Federation. These, just even setting it inside the galaxy, you don't even have to do that. I mean, you have a whole universe, practically speaking. So it's one of those questions why we have to middle around in the same puddle over and over again. I mean, we've had this discussion before too.
Yeah, very much so. No, see, they did that wrong. So we are about 26,000 light years so we're about 26,000 light years from the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah, we're
All
about
right.
equidistant from the core and from the edge. And then we're about
Exactly.
mid-center of the disk, because our S-wave position is right in the middle. So we're about 500 from the top, 500 from the bottom of the disk that we're in.
All right. So let's run some numbers really quick, because here's my, as you were saying, they were talking about, so many years in the future, they could be, getting towards the edge, sending things outside of the galaxy. I don't even think they would have reached the edge of the galaxy yet. I mean, regardless of what happened in several episodes where it's like, oh, look, we're pushing it. No, you weren't. You weren't even freaking close. All right. I don't know. Maybe you were going high or low. I don't know. But you definitely weren't going lengthwise to the edge of the galaxy. That wasn't happening. And let's figure out. So if they were, let's say we said 25,000 light years. I mean, okay, in the first episode, Mission at Farpoint, how far away did he say that the edge of the Federation was? the distance of the Federation.
Well, they give the location of the encounter at point at Deneb 5. So if we're talking about the star Deneb, you could look up how far away Deneb is. It doesn't actually give how big exactly the Federation is in encounter at point. It just says that Deneb 5 is the gateway to the rest of the unexplored galaxy.
Okay, to say Picard describes the Federation is made up over 150 planets spread across 8,000 light years. So if we say equal distance each side, so that's 4,000 one way, 4,000 the other way. So that means you're still 21,000 light years. Standard cruising warp speed in next gen. How long would it take to go 20,000?
You're gonna find it's going to be decades. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure too.
Because this runs into the wall of what we discussed before with the speeds being relatively inaccurate because of narrative convenience. So, like when they discuss when the Enterprise encounters the Gorn, for instance, in Arena, they basically are going so far off the map they don't even have any charts for it, and they just have like names for the stars, and it's like they're like they're talking about like moving, like going 400 parsecs or something. So 400 parsecs, a parsec is 20 light years. So you've already had the crew go 800 light years in one episode. So the ships, don't have like a relatively consistent speed.
That was just, if we go off of the canon warp speed scales, all right. Right now they're saying it would have taken 10 to 20 years to travel that 20,000 light years at Voyager speeds. At Voyager warp 7 to 8, it would have taken 10 years. At lower warp 5 would have taken approximately 28 years to travel the same distance. That's just way too. And now let's roll that back to TOS light speeds. All right.
That's the thing about Star Trek 2 and through Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4 and 5. When you look at Excelsior, what Paramount was saying was, this is what's going on. The published works for the Enterprise, which were considered canon at the time, Enterprise was able to hit Warp 8 as a cruising speed, Warp 12 for its top speed. Excelsior was able to do Warp 12 as its cruising speed, and Warp 14 for its top speed.
That was the whole transwarp stuff. All right. But that was on the old scale. All right. Now, on the old scale, the TOS scale, Warp 6 is considered the cruising speed for the Constitution.
The original Connie.
All right. It would have been, let me see, that would have been, what did it say here?
60 years.
It would have taken 92.6 years for them to go from Farpoint to the edge of the galaxy. All right. But at emergency speed of Warp 8, which it couldn't do for very long, that still would have taken 40 years.
I remember when I left home, I was a young man.
Yeah. And you know what the worst part is? They would have showed up there and Kim would still have been an ensign. And anyway.
I'm like, I never get promoted. I get killed a lot, but I never get promoted.
Half the crew could die off and he'd still be an ensign.
Yeah. He'd be the most underrated, most skilled ensign ever in Starfleet. What jobs have you had? What jobs have I not had?
Yeah, exactly. He gets back and I'm like, you're still an ensign? You didn't get any field promotions? How bad did you fuck up? Well, I died a lot.
If there was an airlock to go out and I didn't have a spacesuit on, I was there.
Yeah. I was definitely checking for leaks from the outside. It's just, they're just not taking into account the size and scope of everything there. And that is just a linear line. That's not including the amount of space that increases on the, what is it, the cube root rule or whatever the hell it is, that it just, the exponentially increases, and there's just more and more stars in there. I
Mhm.
mean, okay, so let's say that's a good question. At 8,000 light year wide, it says we have 150 planets. That's what he said in the Federation is 150 planets. That's planets that have joined the Federation. How many planets decided not to join the Federation is a question. All right, because the Federation isn't going to make people join, even though they fall within their sphere of influence. So
I'd say there's at least a good 400 civilizations that haven't joined, but that's based upon an estimate of mine. Take it or leave it. I won't be hurt if you don't.
within I want 4,000. I am asking the question: how many possible planets are there within a 4,000 light year radius of Earth? Exact numbers are impossible, but certain statistical estimates suggest there are likely tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of planets within 4,000 light years of Earth. That's a whole lot. There are approximately 10 million stars within a 1,000 light year radius of Earth.
Here's the one thing you need to keep in mind, and this is kind of the whole problem with Star Trek, as we've discussed before. The whole, Earth is like, there's like lots of Earths, but getting back to realism and whatnot, 80% of the stars in the galaxy are little red dwarf stars. The majority of them are not going to be able to have some habitable planets because the sun belches out huge cosmic.
I would like to contend that you are prejudiced towards our form of life.
Fair enough. But if we're talking about species of
there
the
are
week,
not enough planets that could sustain us.
right? We're talking species of the week, which are mainly going to be humanoid, because you and I both.
We're talking about species that we could possibly imitate with enough makeup. So that's the that's the criteria. Is it has to be somebody that Paramount come up with in the makeup room.
Well, they could also get the lasagna monster and get it could be like a large corn cob. It could have a corn cob monster.
It could be a salt vampire.
There's always room for corn.
Be the little rock thing that Spock did the mind meld with.
Yeah, that's the lasagna monster. That's exactly what I was talking about. Because
lasagna, I would call that more of a spicy moth.
I'm serious. If you want to look it up, the Horta was originally a prop for a commercial. It was lasagna in a commercial, and they just modified it and added stuff to it. So it was originally a prop for a commercial, and they bought it for cheap.
That's weird.
That's why it looks like it has meatballs in it.
I figured, that was I wasn't going to ask because I respect its privacy. That's whatever it wanted to be.
You can look however you want, but just remember, you only burn the tunnels this way.
Yeah. It's the only lasagna that will burn your mouth from the outside.
All it's left is his teeth. That's it. He ate that lasagna, and it ate him. And it was all over after that.
So here's the question. Should we, is there a way to start, because right now they're basically at the very beginning of putting things together and deciding what they're doing. Now is the time to have the letter writing campaign or the online poll campaign to tell them what we would like to see.
Yeah.
All right. And how do we get that information to them? I'm tasking you. What are you going to do?
Well, first thing we ought to do is write up a letter that basically explains the position, like Gene Roddenberry did. He talked to Rand Corporation, and he asked them, what we're looking at for what they knew at the time about stars and where things were. And he wanted to create a vehicle, which became Star Trek as a TV story venue. And basically explain, hey, you live in a disk that's 100,000 light years across, about 25,000 light years from the core we're orbiting, and about, give or take, about 10,000 light years towards the core. That's a no-go zone. There's nothing there that you can really live at, because most of the planets, as they get towards the core of the galaxy, are going to be what are called carboniferous. They're going to be mostly just carbon shells with diamond, and they'll have like ozone atmospheres with smog and petroleum on the surface. Great for mining and doing stuff like that. And maybe you can have some weird life forms there.
Just the sheer level of radiation as you get closer and closer to
Yeah,
the
it's not
core
going to be a
is
pleasant
makes
place
it,
to live.
not good for our paramount makeup kind of life. Yeah,
Right. And then more than 10,000 light years the other direction, going discward or whatever, edgeward, essentially you start running out of planets that'll have enough heavy metal content to actually have worlds like we live on. Because essentially the problem is the stars out that way don't have enough what is called metallity. Can't talk today. They don't have enough, they don't have enough heavy elements in them. So as a result,
I beg to differ. The way a star works, those heavy elements are a matter of the fusion that's going on within the star. The star starts off as just straight helium. All right. Hydrogen, excuse me, starts off as just straight hydrogen. And as it burns that hydrogen and combines it, all right, through fission, as it more and more and more, it's basically combining and creating higher and higher level, atoms. And then until it goes supernova and blows it all out there, and that goes out to the start. So the basis of whether or not there's enough, heavy elements out there is a product of the stars themselves, not necessarily whether or not the supermassive black hole at the center is sucking in the greater mass and the lighter mass is going out. I don't think that is as much. I mean, I don't think, granted, it might have some effect on, free, but I'm just saying no. That's what I'm saying.
well,
I can
I'm just basing it off of what I've read about what they call the galactic Goldilocks zone. Because the thing about the disk in the areas we live in, for instance, there's been enough supernovas that have gone off and seeded enough of the gas clouds with enough heavy metals that you can have, silicon, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, oxygen, nitrogen. You can have all these elements. We have to have phosphorus. We have to have nitrogen. We have to have oxygen. We have to have carbon. We have to have iron. I mean, we wouldn't exist if we didn't have iron.
But all of this comes from the stars. All right. And the stars, all the stars start off as just straight hydrogen. All right. And I just think I think somebody is and I'm looking at it right now. It'll take me more time to read it, and I could be totally wrong, which ask my wife, happens all the time. But absolutely. I think that somebody is just projecting a solar system Goldilocks zone where it comes from, and that comes solely from whether or not how close it is to the sun, so you could have liquid water. All right, that's all that Goldilocks zone is. All right, and to put that onto the entire galaxy and then say it has to do with metallity, I don't think so. I think they are misconstruing where those heavy elements come from. They don't come from the supermassive black hole. All right.
No, they come from supernova explosions.
Yeah. And those supernovas happen all across the galaxy all the time.
Right. But it's just what the idea is that the disk, it gets essentially the galactic core pulls stars towards it. And so you have higher conglomerations of supernova explosions as you get thicker into the disk. So the further out on the edge, there's less of supernova explosions, and you just have more of the M-class dwarf stars sort of hanging out going, hey, I'm made out of hydrogen, I'm made out of helium. And then you have the few big stars, and when they go pop, then they seed the clouds, and then more stars are born. But the other part of the equation that I was going to get to is that the type of stars that we're generally looking at, they would have Earth-like, orbits, and have, the ability to have a night-day cycle that you're used to, would be planets that would be orbiting K-class stars or G-class stars, because K-class stars will actually outlast our sun. They'll burn for like 20, 40 billion years. G-class stars will generally last from anywhere from about 20 billion years to about 10 billion years. And our sun is going to last for about maybe 12.6 or something like that, I think, is what they're rating it for. So we're towards the other edge, and anything above that, then you get into what are called F-class stars, and life can't really evolve on them.
Yeah,
and there's
you're F.
less of
Yeah.
them than there are G-class stars. And G-class stars, I think, only make up like 6 or 8% of the galaxy, and then like 80% of them are the M-class dwarf, and then you have the Ks, which are about 10. So you've got maybe 80, 10. So you're looking at maybe 4 to 2 for the others up scale from that. So the O, B, and F are like very small percentages, but they are bigger stars by normal scale. They're more massive. You don't really want to live on or around planets that are around stars like that. You might have artificial, you know, and habitats living around it, and that they actually would be great for that. But you know, that's a whole different bag of cats for discussing, what kind of technology you have in Star Trek. You could have people that are, mining stars for all intents and purposes, you know.
Oh yeah.
So so I actually think it would be completely logical in Star Trek Next Generation's time to have star mining be a common thing, but we never saw that. There you go. My 10
Yeah,
cents.
I'm just looking. Yeah, so yeah, K and G's are physically denser and have a higher dispersion near the galactic center, and that's a given. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the possibilities of there being. I mean, I'm just saying that just because they are, that last, let's say, 10,000 light years from from the galactic edge in, is not the number of viable stars and planets. Yes, it's going to be less, but it's not going to be not there. Whereas when you go in towards the center, that from the center out 10,000, that hot zone, I don't care how G or how K you are. All right, there's just too much galactic radiation for me not to get a sunburn in milliseconds.
So what you're saying is you don't think that somebody's going to be like the Fallout mutant, go, hey, that's good living out here. It's all sort of hot, shake and bake world we're on. My hair fell out, my teeth fell out, but I'm good.
I personally think, because if you look, part of the Fermi paradox is, and the reason why we haven't had any evidence of other civilizations out there, is one of the limiting factors is the fact that there are stellar events that occur all the time, such as supernovas and gamma ray bursts and all the stuff like that, that clear whole zones of any ability to contain life. I mean, just strip it clear. But the further out you go, the further apart those stars are, and so you're less likely to have one of those events wipe out a neighboring star. So it could possibly be, yes, the further out you go, the more into the galactic sticks you are, and the further apart civilizations are. But perhaps there's a better chance for them to evolve and not get wiped out by galactic events because they are further away from other stuff.
There's actually a discussion point about, I think, on Orion's Arm, which is a site that I contribute art at occasionally. They're probably looking at me like, not often enough, sir. But anyway, Orion's Arm discusses that there are species and groups of people who go out to the very edge of the galaxy and hide out. They're called lurkers, I think is what they could discuss or describe them as. But they basically love the cold, dark depths of space because the cold and dark sections of the galaxy are great for computing. And if you're an AI civilization or you're a civilization that needs large amounts of cooling for computing purposes, then having something out in the boonies is a perfect place to live. And I actually always thought that the Borg should actually come from out in the boonies, because that would be a perfect place to be coming from. And then the original concept that Probert talked about was, when they initially were coming up with the design for the Borg, and Guinan mentions it, is that when they come in force, they don't just come with one ship, they swarm. And so it's like a locust. And so when you see the Borg cube, that's a scout. And the original idea was that, and they describe it like this in Q Who, is that something has gone across the planet and sucked up all the technological items on the surface of the planet like a giant vacuum cleaner. So there are evidence of roads, but no cities, just roads where something has scooped up every piece of technological items on the planet's surface. And so the idea was that these Borg cubes would assemble in a giant monolith that'd be something like 20 across and 50 down. And each one's 2 miles by 2 miles by 2 miles. And so you got this 100-mile tall monolith by, essentially 40 miles across, and it would insert itself in the atmosphere and just scoop up everything, and then they disperse. They build on new cubes, and they just go out into the boonies again and hide out and just wait for somebody else to get their interest, and they come over and go, hey, look, that's a mighty pretty planet you got there. You got some technology. We like it. And that would be a much more sinister Borg than, hey, you know what? We've decided we're just going to come and give you a Borg cube treatment.
Yeah, I mean they were initially supposed to, eventually swarm, but the thing was is that they were, even for until they came up with all those warp corridors. Initially the Borg were too far away. They weren't supposed to meet yet. Thank you very much, you. And yeah, I mean, and that was one of the things too, is they quickly put that big bad enemy into Next Generation, so it was an overwhelming story arc the entire way through. Just like in TOS, the overwhelming story arc was always the Klingons. All right, and then everybody wanted a Klingon on board, and that's where we got Worf, which I think he would have been better. He would have been better as a big cat. They should have just made him Gazenti.
I think it would have been funny, personally, with Worf and Michael Dorn. If you're listening to this, don't take offense. But I think it would have been hilarious if they had him as a Klingon Marine, be like, be from the United States Marines, even though it'd be non sequitur, but it'd be like, have him talk like, hey, I grew up in the United States of America where I was taught proper English, and have some.
And see, that's the thing, is he really should have been speaking with a Russian accent.
Yeah, he really should have.
Yeah, so
it would have made so much more sense, but
yeah,
but it would have been hilarious to have. It would have been hilarious to have a jarhead Marine Klingon who's completely non sequitur. You see this Klingon walk on board, and suddenly he's a Southern guy going, "What's wrong with you?"
It would have been great if, instead of being raised in, in Russia or wherever, in order to keep the American accent, but go ahead and wild it up, have him be raised in Louisiana swamps.
Yeah, he likes Cajun cooking. He likes his dog. He likes his dog crawling in the spices, man. What's wrong with that?
It was a crawdad farm, and they had a whole section that they started raising gawk worms. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
I'd be totally down for that. I would be down for that. But what's done is done, and they're not going to change Worf, which is fine. I'm happy they're not going to change Worf.
That's where we're coming back at. That's where we're coming back to. Is now is the point that we could tell them, no, we want spicy Louisiana Klingons. All right.
Well, I think that would be great. I actually would enjoy mixing it up. I'd also really like them to do more. I would like because Star Trek was based on 1960s concepts of science fiction. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we've moved on from there. I mean, we've had, more than 60 years of time since then. So, science fiction's moved on, and our understanding of science has moved on. So I think that, really, relatively speaking, we don't need to do sizes, and we don't need to blow the ship up to ginormous proportions. We don't need a ship that's 55 miles long. What we need is a realistic, well, not necessarily super realistic, but realistic idea of the world we live in, the universe we live in, the galaxy we live in. Make the ship correspondingly relevant. Make the things consistent, so you're not like sending everyone. What? That doesn't make sense.
Do you think they're going to mess with the Roddenberry rules of Federation ships?
I'm pretty sure they will. They already have. I mean,
but like full on ditch the disc, ditch the nacelles.
I think they may ditch the nacelles, because what we're actually moving towards in real life is we're moving towards rings on ships.
Yeah, we're moving toward
the designs for most of the faster than light types of prototypes they're talking about or ring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To
We're
me, that
looking
would make
towards
sense.
the Vulcan look.
Yeah, and well, actually, it was originally Jeffries toyed with it because some of the prototype enterprises
Yeah,
before you got to the nacelles were the ring, like the XCV Pro design was actually before the design you're used to for the Connie. But there's even a design for the Connie which has a very Connie primary hull, has a strut going back where the impulse engine. That's one of the things I was talking about to you before. Is like Enterprise, you could have the Enterprise primary hull from Enterprise and have a strut going into the impulse engine section, kind of like they have in the show, and then have them go back to a ring, and it's mounted up. This secondary hull is actually mounted in a ring struck section. Like there's three spokes, and then the ring is central, off of that secondary hull. I mean, it's not that far fetched to see that happen. If they do it, I think they need to carefully weigh. I don't think they should go whole hog and just like get to the point where it doesn't look anything like what they've done before. But I think they need to be careful about going so close to what they've done before that it's like, doesn't it doesn't pick up anything and learn anything new. I think they need to reference it, but keep it where it's technically relevant because there's no reason to make the ship look like it's a copy of whatever's from the Cullen verse or whatever from the Abram verse or from Strange New Worlds or even from Toss. But if you're going to reset it and do a reboot, hell, you could. There's no reason to have the bridge be even like what it is in Jeffries. I mean, Jeffries designed a beautiful bridge for the time that makes relevant sense, and the Navy loved it and used some of the design elements for their own purposes for Navy ships. But one of the guys who designed a bridge has this concept, which I actually think is relevant. Is it's basically a holographic chamber. There's very few instrument panels. There's like the
no,
Hellman navigation consoles.
no, no,
You don't think that's
no, because those break. You don't want something where it's. I mean, you want to have a switch you can flip. You
no? I'm not
still
talking about
need.
switches. I'm talking
Yeah, I
about
mean, you still need physical stuff that you can touch in
no.
order
I'm
to
not.
run.
Bear with me.
Go
I'm not
ahead.
talking
Go
about
ahead.
instrumentation being holographic. I'm talking about the room being a holographic representation of where they are. So, like the overhead display is not a view screen. It's like literally the chamber they are in is the view screen. And then the back section has doors and
No,
some. You don't like that?
I don't like that. I mean,
Mm.
I can see with our technology that we have today, there's no reason that El Skippy or EXO can't be sitting in a seat and they can have around them in their seat a
Mhm,
holographic projection they can look around.
mhm,
All right,
mhm,
and same said for the different stations of what they need to see. But
mhm,
something that encompassing and that far around, it is a distractor. All right.
mhm,
You need people concentrating on their stuff, not looking all over the place. All right. And if El Capitan needs to see something, he needs to be able to pull it in where he could see it and not have it disorienting everybody else as the whole room spins and moves around them and stuff like that. All right. I'm saying that it would be better not to have it as an entire room
mhm.
display, but individually per station, you know, some kind of
So what you're
display.
saying is have something where it would be key to their ocular system. They could see it as they need to.
Like a HUD, all right,
Mhm.
but based per station, all right.
I
Now
could see that. I could see that.
that would
Actually,
work. That would work more technically.
mhm,
Whether or not it would work more cinematically, I don't know. But one of the problems I've had with the recent iterations of Trek is they've
mhm.
gone too far into the cinematic and not kept enough realistic.
I would agree. The major reason why I like the whole, you get to see this grand sort of thing is they keep making the view screen larger. The thing I hate about the view screen, and this is my personal opinion, is that it's becoming cluttered because what you want is a view screen. You want status, you want a red alert or some kind of notice. It doesn't have to be wordy. It could just be a color. You need a diagram for what the visual range is. Like, what are you looking at? Like, is it 10,000 kilometers away? Is it 15,000 kilometers away? Something that you know what you're looking at. And if like there's a ship coming in range, you can see like little HUD, like you're talking about, marking it so you can see it. You don't need a whole bunch of wordy stuff going on and flashing
Okay. And
stuff.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. But, all right, captain, XO, weapons officer, and stuff like that
Mhm.
need to be able to zoom in on that incoming D7, see how far away it is, get vectoring and all the stuff like that. Navigator and stuff like that needs to have a different view. All right.
Yeah.
Engineering needs to have a different view. All right. They need to be pulling up stuff on operations, different view. All right.
Sure.
But once again, we are constrained by what would play best cinematically.
Mhm.
All right. And unfortunately, the view screen plays best cinematically. All right.
True.
I think the overall one
Mhm.
is too much, one, cinematically, and two, because once again, it's just too much. And I'm tired of these bridges that are
Mhm.
so large you could host a freaking symphony in it.
Yeah,
All right.
they're too big.
It's too big. And plus, when
Mhm.
stuff happens, at no point have they actually figured out how to put a damn seatbelt on. All right. Or, just lock down, 3-point it. I don't care what the hell they're doing. Or 4-point or whatever, 5. I don't care. I think, one, that if as somebody who sits there and because, somebody's got to be focused in on their station and what their tasks are. If you
Mhm.
have, El Capitan take
Mhm.
over the view screen as he is wont to do because it's his damn view screen. He signed off for it. He's on the hand receipt. It's his view screen. All right. Yeah, it's mine. My name's on the hand receipt. If he zooms in, all right, that just screwed up navigation. Now navigation doesn't know what the hell they're looking at. All right. And it's not to deal with what they're dealing with there. They don't need to be seeing where the D7 is off, 4 parsecs that way or, 5 AUs that way. They need to be checking and make sure they're not going to run into this asteroid right here that they're hiding behind. All right. And so they have to have their individual stations that they can see the stuff in. And I don't think a full wraparound is conducive to a good work environment.
Well, I'm going to say how I view it. Basically, I think that it should be capped. There should be a dome, and it should cut it off. And I think it's basically going to be your sight line for this point, because there's no real point in having it behind you. But basically, like human vision. Here we go. I can see my hands that go out.
Now,
Yeah. So the thing is that behind you, I think that one of the stupid, and I will say this, one of the stupidest things I hate in Star Trek is when they have a tactical or information or systems display on the wall behind the captain for the guys to see. Now, maybe they fuzz it out or make it non-visible, but when you put the information display right behind the captain and the captain's talking to somebody, and then you have somebody working in consoles or you see the displays, that bugs me because you're sharing information with somebody who may be trying to hurt you, and you don't need to be feeding them information. So I think that the consoles should face generally towards the view screen. They shouldn't be faced away from the view screen because that doesn't help. But the other thing is the captain needs to be able to see things like you talked about. So I think one of the things that actually you hit upon that I actually really liked in a movie that was from early 2000s was Matrix Revolutions. They had a VR world where people were operating consoles and seeing stuff, and they saw it, but the people around them didn't. So they were
Now-
sitting there doing their things, but they were in their own VR space and being able to do stuff.
Now, I see your point about not, when the captain's talking to enemy mine, you don't want, people's screens popping up. Yeah, but, all right, but 2 things. 1, all right, it shouldn't be a wide enough shot you can see what's on those screens anyway. It should be right on El Capitan. But 2, that is artifact of a storytelling where
Mhm.
you want the two and the 2 antagonists to be able to have a conversation, all
Mhm.
right, and have that conversation in visual so you can have that storytelling with the visual. If you look at the other major sci-fi franchise, All right. Star Wars, they don't talk to each other.
No, except for, like little holographic thing.
Yeah, little holographic right there. That they don't talk to each other. They don't worry about that. I mean, if it's anything, it's just send them a message or da 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 da, or there's such and such wants to, but it's never like a full on, my enemy of mine. No, it's not that stuff. I think that whole big back and forth is just an artifact of their storytelling. And
I agree.
even when it comes to like the captain talking to even if it's just a planetary governor or something like that, if he's at his chair having a conversation with them, all right, then the camera or the virtual camera or whatever should just be him. There is absolutely no reason that I now in the year 2025 have a blur function on this where my background is blurry and they can't have that on Star Trek.
Yeah, I agree. I totally 100% agree. Actually, this brings up an interesting point because when the Ferengi are first introduced, Troy is like, it's like, well, they're altering their main screen viewing.
Yeah.
So it's distorted. And all it is his head and this white background. I'm like, so what? That's not a big deal. At least he's not like sitting there going, hey, Counselor Troy.
Yeah.
Hand gestures, Hey.
At least the camera wasn't down his pants. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, at least,
yeah, it could be much worse.
At least he's not sitting there in the new going, hey, baby.
Yeah.
But, it's like, I think personally the whole thing of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What? I said, yeah, I could feel you in my mind. You like what you feel? But go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. What I was going to say is that, yeah, I totally agree. They need to have where, when the Federation captain's talking to somebody, you don't need to see what's going on behind him. You don't even need to see the guy next to him. If Counselor Troy wants to tell him something, the audio shouldn't pick it up. If she says, Captain, they're raising their shields, why does the audio feed need to pick that up?
Just when you have to have the discussion, the comms, put them on and put on the diplomacy filter.
Yeah.
Diplomacy filters all that stuff out, filters out the audio, everything's good.
And the only thing, I mean, they had the technology. I mean, Next Gen had some weird inconsistencies. The comm badge, one of the features was that if you wanted to talk and you just wanted to be heard, the comm badge had the technology so the people around you could talk to you and it would only pick up your voice. So the comm badge was designed to do that and they never used it. I was like, that would have been perfect for that because you're wearing it because it's on your person. And so the computer would pick you up. This is you. Everybody else in the diplomacy filter is cut off, so they don't have an audio. Done.
There's no reason at that high level of technology they couldn't have an implantable cochlear implant.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have it now where they're talking about people who have hearing damage. They can have a cochlear implant or even have one that goes like right here, and they can have a phone and be able to have better than normal hearing restored. So that they can even understand better than you and I can without any hearing damage. So,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And so, granted, they could add all this in, but then you're going to have the diehards out there, and we know who they are. You're going to have the diehards out there who are going to be like, well, that can't, that technology can't be there because they didn't have that at TOS or they didn't have that in Next Gen, or why is their technology now better than what it was in TMP? All right. And I'm sorry, those are the same people that if they could would be walking around wearing their high school letter jackets saying, no, those were the best years of my life. No, you need to let it go and move forward with the times, because if you try to put everything, and constrain the technology to what it was during that time that it was filmed, then you're never going to allow it to evolve. It's always going to be the same thing, the same stories. And then as we become better, than what was available in TOS, just technology wise. When it comes to comms and computer technology and all that stuff like that, we're already further along than they ever thought they would be, with TOS. All right,
Mhm.
they thought that was the future. That is so archaic to us, it's laughable. And if
The computer technology is like decades behind what we got now, and we got computer
oh
technology far outstrips theirs.
oh no, I just had a revelation what their storylines are going to be. It's all going to be anti-AI. It's all going to be AI storylines. That's the big thing now is AI. It's all going to be AI storylines.
I bet there's three. I actually bet there's three:
What?
multiverse, AI, and aliens that we don't understand or don't know how to cope with. Those are the three storylines I think they'll really stick to, because
Uh,
a lot of our science fiction basically runs along those same parallels. Because, like, what was it? The one with the aliens that.
after you finish this thought, we need to tie up because I just got a heads up that your battery just dropped below 20%.
That's weird because I have it plugged in. But yeah, it's plugged in, but it's showing it. Yeah, you're right. It's 15. That's weird.
All right, so finish your thought and let's tie this up.
So there were aliens from a film where they really didn't have a good communication method. They basically communicated glyphs. And humans currently, we are this way, whether people like it or not. We don't understand something, we get scared, we try to, try and control ourselves, but often we start going, hey, you do something, we're gonna hurt you. We will hurt you and we will kill you or whatever. So we need to come from a position of, in science fiction, we're coming out into the universe, we're coming out in the galaxy. I think that they need to understand that in science fiction, you learn how to uh, uh, address or understand the universe based upon the steps you take, just like as a human being. You don't learn how to run before you crawl and before you walk. You have to take these smaller steps and get to that point. And I think part of the problem in science fiction these days is we're too much ready for explosions and flash and bang and stuff of that sort. But I think the three storylines they're going to go for are AI is dangerous, multiversal stuff, and look, dangerous aliens. No, I pretty much can guarantee.
I see the AI coming. I hope they go more for the aliens. And I really hope they stay away from the multiverse. Multiverse is just getting so overused.
Mhm.
They have overused it ever since TOS with the Mirrorverse.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been doing multiverse since the Mirrorverse.
Well,
And it's now 60 years of multiverse.
yeah. Well, the major problem is they haven't come up with anything new, because this is the whole thing I've discussed before. The universe is a lotus. You have this one little thread you're doing, but it's all the way around. It's not just one thing. It's leaves and leaves and leaves of books. All the you're traveling.
I know. I'm centering myself back up. Am I not
Okay,
centered?
you're
Hold
centered
on.
now, but
Yeah,
you were.
that's what I was trying to do is center myself.
Okay,
All right.
so I'll just say it this way: I think that there is enough room for genuine new storytelling. They need to go ahead and look at S.M. Sterling and some of the other major science fiction authors that are out there right now and go, hey, we'd like you to give us some ideas for stories that are not boom, boom, multiverse, or this. Tell us a story, write us a story, because a lot of the stories from TOS were written by science fiction authors at the time. Time to grow a new crop, man.
Mhm.
Harvest. It's time to pick it up.
Yeah, and there's plenty of them out there that can do it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of good authors out there that write some good sci-fi. And yeah. But anyways, let's go ahead and tie this up.
All right. Well, this has been our podcast for this evening. My name is
Yeah.
Sean, and his name has
Yeah.
been App.
Hey, what's up? All right, and we will talk to you guys another time. All right. All right. Bye-byes.
Bye.